afternoon, where we're going to talk about some simple natural remedies, and we're using things that won't make you hungry. Raw potato, onion, ginger, things that you've just got in your home. And in the little book, The Ministry of Healing, I love the way she gives this formula. She says, in case of sickness, the cause should be ascertained. So that's important to investigate and find out what could have contributed. And then she says, unhealthful conditions changed, wrong habits corrected, and you've come to the place where it's a great way to change habits. Because you've probably noticed we're not serving any coffee or tea or alcohol or cigarettes. So this is a great way to change habits. So what we do to you in 1 week here would take 6 months on a good diet. So it's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah. So there might be times when you feel fantastic. There might be times when you feel like something, we say, something the cat dragged in. Do you have that saying? Yeah. Yeah, because we're English rule, a lot of our sayings are very similar to yours. So wrong habits corrected. Then nature is to be assisted in her efforts to expel impurities and re-establish right conditions back in the system. So that's what we've jumped to here, is that's where the natural remedies come in, to assist nature. Because nature in the body, that's what it's often called, that's its inbuilt ability to heal itself, which God put in there. And so these natural remedies can bring relief, but they also contribute to healing. Now, medicinally, when you've got an ache or a pain or a problem, they give you something to mask it. Is that right? So they're just treating symptoms. But actually, treating symptoms is the body saying, excuse me, I've got a problem here, can you do something? The drugs don't heal, they just mask the problem. Whereas natural remedies, yes, you are still treating symptoms, but the natural remedies, when you apply them and you get relief, it's the body saying, thank you. That's what I want. But not only does it relieve the symptoms, but it's contributing to healing. And the fact that you've got some relief, it's the body's way of saying, yes, this is what I like. So this is all part of something that we'll talk about every day, is to listen. To listen to what the body says. I was in Peru a few months ago, right up in the foothills of the Andes in a place called Secret Valley. It was very beautiful. And a lady stood up and she said, I used to work in New York. She said, I was a businesswoman. And this lady was only about 30. She said, but 2 years ago I crashed because I wasn't I was going to bed too late, I was partying too much, I wasn't eating well, And she said, and I came home and I went to an Ayurvedic doctor, a doctor who treats naturally, and he said to her, tell me what you're eating. And when she told him, he said, and how does that feel in your gut, that meal? She said, I don't know. And I thought, wasn't that interesting? She doesn't know. So many people don't listen. Now, if it's not sitting well, it's going to tell you, isn't it? You're going to be bloated or you're going to feel uncomfortable. And yet so many people feel bloated all the time, uncomfortable all the time, that they just think that's how I feel. And it really struck me how many people are the same. If someone said to you, well, how does that meal fit? Would you say, I don't know? Or would you say, oh, I'm bloated, but I'm always bloated. But these are signs. And that's why I advise people to write a diary. Document your case. And if you do have discomfort with digestion, you've got to sit down and think, what did I just eat? But you know what you'll also find? If you ate a meal that does not sit right, causes great discomfort, maybe burping, bloating, nausea, the next meal you eat, even though it might be good food, you might get a similar reaction because the last meal upset the stomach so much that it's still reacting a little bit. And it's only through observation. So it's not just listening, it's also observing. And when this doctor said to her, so how does that meal sit? And she said, I don't know. As soon as she said it, she felt a bit silly. We're the ones living in the body. We're the only one that knows. So I've got a sore hand, and I say to you, feel how sore my hand is, will you? No, you can't feel that. Only we know. And that's why you're the best doctor. You're the best doctor. No one can tell you, not even the top specialist in the land can tell you what your body can tell you. So this is natural remedies. And I'm going to be using things that you've got in your home. And one of them is the humble onion. And there's a few ways that you can use the onion. Everyone right? You can use the onion raw, or you can use it cooked. So first thing we're going to look at is cooked. That's the first poultice I ever did. My first daughter had an earache, and over 6 weeks and 4 courses of antibiotics. I'm so frustrated. I'm only 23. I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to give my child any more drugs, but I didn't know what else to do. That's why I'll always answer the mother, because I felt the frustration of not knowing what to do. So when my second child had an earache, I didn't tell anyone, because what happens? You get pressure. Don't play with the ears, she'll go deaf. So I went to the old lady next door. By now I'm 25, she's 85. I said, what did your mother do when you were a child and had an earache? She said, Mum would steam up an onion on the stove. Now my child was only 18 months, so this is a really good size onion. I steamed it up, and you steam it with the skin intact because that holds it all together. And then you cut it in half so that you're looking at the rings, and that will hold it together. And then I wrapped it in a cloth. It's good to have these cloths. Where did I get this from? This is one of my favourite sheets. It's half bamboo, half linen. You can feel it beautiful. And then I got back from being overseas and saw a big tear in it. So they're the perfect ones to make poultices out of. Because you know what my husband does when I'm away? He just washes the same sheets again and again and again. Whereas when I'm home, I wash these sheets, put them in the cupboard and get another set out. In fact, he told me that he sleeps on his side of the bed for a week and then my side of the bed for a week. He thinks he's so clever. So when I saw the tear, that's the time. And this is a good size, so that would be about 10 inches by 10 inches, yeah? And what you do is you tear them into that size and you fold them into little squares. When you go home, it's a good idea to make a poultice box. And you have a whole pile like that. So if you're going to make something like the onion poultice, you just pull that out and you fold it over a few times and then you put it against your arm, and when it's feeling like the right temperature, then put it on the ear. What I have since discovered is that you can, once it's steamed, you can squeeze a few drops into a spoon. It'll be boiling, the spoon will be cold, and then put a few drops in the ear and then wrap it up and then put it on the ear. You can keep it on the ear as long as you can keep it warm. So how to keep it warm is I fold up the cling wrap a few times so it's manageable. You put that on the ear and cover it with that sheet of plastic. That'll keep it warm, and bandage it on. Or you can get a snug little woolen beanie. You call it a beanie, little knitted hat, put that over. The wool will insulate it too. But with this, my first experience, James was being breastfed at the time, so I'm holding him and I had it against his ear and against my arm, so that kept it warm and I could feel the temperature, and he fell asleep and he slept for 2 hours. What does that tell you? He's not in pain. So the heat brings great relief. The onion is a drawer. And sometimes it'll make a little hole and the pus will come out of the eardrum. If the body makes a hole, it'll heal the hole. But if a needle goes in and makes a hole, then it's difficult. But if the body does it, it's... I don't have in my home those little Q-tips, they're called. I don't have them in my home because they should never go in an ear. And we had a guy attend our program. He's 40, and when he was 5, he had them sticking out his ear, walking around. Now, why is he doing that? Because he's watching Mum and Dad. Can you see that? And don't they copy? His brother came up to him and went like that. He's at 40. He's deaf. So so I don't have them in my home.
What about condoms?
Yeah. You know, the best thing is put your head on the side in the shower and let the hot water pumble in there and wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. That's the best way. There shouldn't be anything little go into the ear. But damn, it's a very delicate in there. So I'll ask the nurse up the back, am I right?
You are absolutely correct.
I'm absolutely correct. Yes. So that onion, now James is 45 now, I don't think he's had another earache. So that ricocheted me into a journey. I was so excited. 6 weeks, 4 courses of antibiotics, and a 2 hours onion poultice on the ear. That's exciting. And I also discovered you can use the cooked onion for a boil. Now, for a boil, you just about put it straight on the boil, wherever it may be. And the heat draws everything into a certain spot, and the moistness of the onion, it softens the top so that when you take that onion off, and you could leave that onion on for 12 hours, you can even on for a long period of time. So you'd put the onion on and maybe just put the plastic straight on, then bandage it on or tape it on. And what people have told me, it brings huge relief. And it pulls everything to a head because that's what the onion is, it's a drawer. The heat also brings it in, and the moistness of the onion softens the tip. In fact, one guy, he told me he was getting them inside the nose, and I thought, I don't know how you put an onion in there, but we usually do cooked onion. Well, he told me a few hours later the whole side of his face swelled up. So he got an onion about 4 times as big as that, steamed it and just put it like that. And then he just put plastic on it and bandaged it on. And he said it brought a lot of relief. And he said within about, I think he said he had on for about 10 hours, and then he felt this moisture, so he took it off and everything came away. Wow. He said he's never had a boil heal so clean, if you can say clean, but it just brought it all to a head. Because some people will squeeze it, that's very painful, you only get a bit out, and then, it can go on for days. But just the onion poultice, it resolved it very, very quickly.
How long do you steam the onion for?
Till it's soft. So if you're in a hurry, you probably can get it soft in about 15 minutes.
How would you steam it?
Steamer.
Oh, you have to buy a steamer.
Well, if you don't have a steamer, you could do a double. You could put a little saucepan inside a bigger saucepan.
Or use a colander. You can use a colander as well.
Yeah, a metal colander.
Okay, thank you.
Or you can dry bake it.
Yeah.
So dry bake it, the whole onion just gets put in the oven.
Okay.
So a friend of mine,
180 degrees Celsius.
oh yeah, something like that. But a friend of mine, he was travelling, and his little boy, couple little kids in the back, his little boy yelled out, "Dad, I need an onion!" His ear getting earache. What are you doing when you're travelling? So he stopped and went to a restaurant and said, "Look, can you microwave me an onion?" Now, the microwave's not the best, but this is a bit of a crisis. What else are you going to do? Anyway, they brought it out and they said, what are you going to do with it? So he cut it in half, wrapped it up, and you had no more noise from the little boy in the back. It just brings a great relief and it resolves the problem. A friend of mine, she had an earache. She put the onion on, brought great relief. And then she had it on all morning and then she took it off and by late afternoon it got painful again, so she slept with it overnight. 7 days she did this. Now, how many people after about 3 days, what would they do then? Go to the doctor? What's he going to do? Give you antibiotics? Well, it's quite possible. Just come back again. You've got to let it do its job. You've got to trust the body. Now, remember the two systems I put on the board this morning? Faith. If you can see it, it's not faith. So faith that this will resolve. Now, why did it take 7 days? I don't know. Possibly the fact that she had an earache as a child and that she kept getting antibiotics and now she's 40 and it's got to actually just run its course. Because all the antibiotics do is mask the problem. Tonight we're going to look at the role of microorganisms in disease and I'll show you what antibiotics are and how they work. I believe that they can be kept as life-saving, but so often today they're just given for any little hiccup. So onion can be used cooked for an earache and for a boil. But it can also be used raw. And there's a few ways that you can use it raw. And I think everyone knows if you cut up an onion, you start crying, don't you? So that onion juice is very good at thinning the mucus, respiratory-wise. So if you've got a cold, cut up some onions. But you can use it for a sore throat. Now, I was talking to a group of ladies in Dubai last week, and they said, yeah, but what can you do for strep throat? You know what I say? How do you know it's strep throat? How do you know? They'd have to have a test. Yeah? Streptococcus. How do you know it's strep throat? Have a test. Well, I never went to the doctor. I never took my children to the doctor. But they have sore throats. It's quite common to get a sore throat when you got a cold. Everyone gets sore throat. Everyone all over the world since time dot has got sore throat. Because you know what they've been told? You've got to take antibiotics or it might go to the heart. Have you heard that? Mm-hmm. So you know what I say when I hear that? I don't believe that. So then the mother rushes to the doctor and gets the antibiotic. So now I'm going to show you what you can do for a sore throat. You can make an onion poultice. So we've got the cloth, and then you finely slice the onion, and you place it on the cloth, like so, like this. It's only a small onion, so I think we're going to do a little bit more. I'm used to big onions. But if you've only got a small onion, just chop up a little bit more. So we chop it up like this, and so there's our sliced onion. And then you put the cloth, you bring the bottom up, and then you bring the top down. So you've got a long little package. And then that goes on the neck. And then you can put a piece of plastic over that and a woolly scarf. You could just put a woolly scarf. The woolly scarf will smell a bit. What the plastic over it does is just insulates it, protects the clothing and prevents chilling if the air gets on the damp. And you can sleep with that all night, but that'll bring relief because the onion juice will be absorbed through the neck and go into the throat. You can also use onion for a bad cough. And how you can use it for a bad cough is to chop it up a little bit smaller. or you could just keep it in very fine slices and then put that in the cloth. We're going to put it on the bottom of the feet. The onion touches the soles of the feet. So with this, you've got chopped up onion. Now what you do is the foot goes straight onto that. So that chopped onion is touching the soles of your feet, and then pull this cloth around it and put a plastic bag around that and then put a sock on. It'll hold it into place. Well, the other thing you can do is you can just put one of those little socks on, you know, little ankle socks, and then just put the onion inside the sock. Put plastic bag on that, then another sock over the top. What the plastic bag does, it stops the onion juice getting onto the sheets, because this is what you'd wear overnight. But that's on the bottom of the feet. I remember I was with my daughter Emma, and her little boy was 3 at the time, and he had a cold, and she gave him a hot bath and then a warm lemon and honey drink and put him to bed. And he coughed, and he coughed, and he coughed, and he coughed, and he coughed. And we just keep thinking he'll go to sleep in a minute. But he just kept coughing and coughing. Half an hour he's coughing. So we got him up and we did that. We chopped up the onion, put his foot on the onion, wrapped it around, put the little plastic bag on, then another sock, put him back to bed. Not one more cough. In fact, all night, not one cough.
Would you put the onion here or on your feet if you have asthma?
You can. You can. But that, whatever. See, there's no wrong thing here. In fact, the beauty of the poultices is if you choose the wrong poultice, you haven't done any harm. If it doesn't work, we'll try another one. But the biggest pause in the whole of your body on the soles of your feet. And so it takes up that onion juice and it takes it where it needs to go. Remember Psalm 104 verse 14, God gave herbs for the service of man. So your body will take it where it needs to go. And I've had many people testify the same thing. It's just great for night coughing. And the other thing with a sore throat and a cold and night coughing, it's got to take its course. You've got to let it run its course. Because from children we've been trained, get sick, go to the doctor give you drug, everything goes away. But you've actually got to let it take its course. Tonight when we look at the true cause of disease, you'll see that germs don't cause disease, they're the result. But also it's a body process and it's designed to free the body from waste. So when you've got a cold and you're coughing up lumps and blowing your nose, it's waste. That's why a cold is a house cream. And in Salisbury in the 1940s, they set up the Common Cold Research Unit to find the cause and the cure of the common cold. Well, they closed down in 40 years with a total failure to find the cause and the cure of the common cold, because they never will, because it's just a house clean. Now, if you're exercising every day, going to bed early every night, eating good food, drinking adequate water, you'll hardly ever have to have a house clean. And what one friend of mine found, he owns a big health retreat in Queensland, he said he found with people with cancer there were 2 things that were very common. They never drink water and they never get a cold. So they're not getting their regular house clean. So the waste is building up in the body. Interesting. So if you get a cold, rejoice, you're having a house clean. It's time to clean house. Onion, another way you can use onion, and this is a really old remedy. You get a jar, chop up an onion, put about 1/2 inch of chopped onion and then a big spoonful of honey. Chopped onion, big spoonful of honey until your jar's full, and let that sit for 24 hours. After 24 hours, you strain it out. You know when you've got the syrup because it's thin and runny. Now I've made that onion syrup, even with candied honey. So chopped onion, big lump of solid honey, chopped onion. And after 24 hours, you see it liquid. It's like very runny. And if you make it with the sticky honey, you see a real difference between thick, sticky honey and yet this clear, not clear, runny amber fluid. That's your onion syrup. After 24 hours, you strain it out and you just leave it in the fridge. For an adult, you might have a teaspoon 3 times a day. For a child, half a teaspoon 3 times a day. For a baby, put your finger in it and just 1 dot on their tongue. So that's a great cough syrup. So that's the onion. A few things you can do with the onion. You can use it cooked and you can use it raw. Now we're going to have a look at a relative of the onion, which is garlic. Garlic is a potent antibiotic. We call it God's antibiotic. And there is a wonderful drink that you can take whenever you get a cold or flu or bronchitis or any respiratory problem, sinus, cold, flu. It's called the flu bomb. I guess you could call it the COVID bomb. And I'll give you the recipe for the flu bomb. And if someone's got a cold, they can take 3 of these a day. So this is a recipe for 1, garlic. And ideally you crush it or finely grate it. How much? Well, how much do you dare? I could probably have a clove about that size. For a child, you might have 1/4 of a clove. Some brave souls will have 2. The next ingredient is ginger, and you finely grate the ginger. And there is an amount for the ginger, and the amount for the ginger is approximately 1/4 of a teaspoon. When you drink this drink, you don't chew this. It's already finely up, you just throw it down. The next ingredient is eucalyptus oil. And there definitely is an amount for the eucalyptus oil, and that is 1 drop. One lady said to me, I bought the eucalyptus oil, but I can't use it. I said, why not? She said, on the bottle it says not fit for human consumption. I said, well, we're not asking you to drink the bottle. It's just 1 drop. And in Australia, they sell eucalyptus cough drops. What do you think's in them? Australia's gone crazy on safety. It's just everything safety, 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 safety. You see, in 1976, a child got into the cabinet and drank, I think, a couple of teaspoons of eucalyptus oil and went into a coma. So they banned eucalyptus oil. So there was such a uproar against it, they legalised it. But on every bottle it's got poison, not fit for human consumption. How many people die of alcohol poisoning, but they haven't banned that yet, have they? You know, we've forgotten really what's safe. The next ingredient is cayenne pepper. I'm not putting an amount here because some people can handle a slight sprinkle and some people can handle half a teaspoon, so it's just as much as you can handle. The next 2 ingredients are lemon. If lemons are falling off the tree, you can put the juice of a whole lemon. If they're $1 a lemon, you might just put a squeeze in. So it's lemon juice. And the last ingredient is honey, and that's usually 1 teaspoon. And even if you put 4 teaspoons in, it does not improve the flavour. It's hot. And you mix that with approximately half a cup of hot water. I know my daughter made it when she was about 17 and she hardly put any hot water in. I said, you haven't put much hot water in? She said, nah, makes it less and I can get it down quicker. Now some people will find that that's a little hard on their stomach, so they might have a bowl of thick soup and then have a flu bomb, or they might eat a banana and have a flu bomb, or eat an avocado and have a flu bomb.
With the honey, what kind of honey would you recommend?
Well, the best is raw honey. And a lot of people don't like the raw honey because it goes solid in the very cold weather. So that's the flu bomb. When our lemons were all ripe at Misty Mountain, we usually pick them all, juice them and put them into little ice cubes, freeze them and then tip them into little snap-lock bags. Well, one very enterprising staff member made it all into flu bombs and then poured them into ice cubes, and I thought, but you know, it turned out to be such a blessing. We do it all the time now. If we've got a guest who's starting to get, you know, runny nose, sore throat, we just go to the freezer, get a little cube out, pour boiling water on it, there's your flu bomb. So it's actually a great idea. Because as you can imagine, you know, staff are busy and a little bit of work to put all this together.
One a day? Would you drink that stuff once a day for the flu?
Usually 3 times. My father went to a Chinese doctor and the doctor gave him that recipe. Oh, this is about 30 years ago. You know what the Chinese doctor said to him? I guarantee that in 3 days your cold will be gone. Can any doctor say that? That's quite amazing, isn't it? And at the same time, of course, one must drink lots of water, go to bed early, make sure they're breathing in fresh air, eat lightly. But you can't give that to a baby, but there is something you can do for a baby, and that is finely slice the garlic and wrap it on the bottom of their feet. And an old lady told me this when I was only in my 20s. She said, finely slice the garlic, put it in a cloth and bind it to the bottom of the feet. If this garlic touches the skin, it will blister the skin, whereas the onion never will. So it must be in a cloth. So you see what I've done there? I've got a couple of little slices there. I put the cloth over it and then I wrap the cloth on. So that's the bottom of the feet. Then you put a little bootie or little sock on it. And that is absorbed by the skin and usually goes to the head or the chest where it's needed. My son James, when he was 3, used to get a lot of chesty colds. I realised looking back now, we backed onto a swamp. The air wasn't great. So I used to wrap garlic on the bottom of his feet, put his shoe and sock on, send him out to play, and every step he takes, a little bit more garlic's coming out. At the end of the day, I'd take it off, you know, for his bath, and the slices of garlic looked like bits of dried out leather, sort of yellowy. Not any juice left in it. When you put it onto a little one, a baby or a little toddler, within half an hour you can smell the garlic on their breath. So that's a very old remedy. My sister did it to her grandson, and within half an hour he was screaming. So they quickly took it off. What she had done is she'd finely grated it. It was just too much juice. So the juice came straight through too much at once and his feet were blistered. Of course the blisters heal, but we try and prevent that. So please always use a cloth and only finely slice it. And then it goes little by little into the body. I got my kids used to raw garlic. A great way to get them used to it is crush it into avocado and get them to dip. Children love dipping, you know, dipping carrot sticks and celery sticks. And Another way you can have it is a thick bowl of soup and crush the garlic straight into the hot soup, and then some people will do it like that. They'll have the ginger and garlic in a bowl of soup and the cayenne pepper, and breathe in the eucalyptus oil and have a lemon and honey. You know, you can spread it out, or you can put it all into the flu bomb and take it like that. You could make up a whole batch of it for a day, maybe even a couple of days, keep it in the fridge, and then when you want to use it, just pour some bit of boiling water into it. There's necessity's the mother of invention. So that's how you can use garlic.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
How long would you put it for, like for little ones? How long?
Oh, usually overnight. Or, you know, if the child had a cold, I'd probably keep it for the evening, because that's usually when they're the most challenged, is at night. And this is another remedy. The same lady that gave me that recipe is, you know, a breastfeeding baby and they get a bit stuffy. You put 1 drop of eucalyptus oil on the fontanelle, and that can help to clear the nose.
Oh,
That's an easy one. So ginger is probably best known as anti-nausea.
Yes.
That's why I said if that drink's not sitting well, a bit more ginger would help. So anti-nausea, if you buy seasickness or car sickness tablets, they're usually just compressed dried ginger. And if you go to Asia and have a massage, when you come out, there's always a hot ginger tea waiting for you. Ginger's great for nausea, but it's also good for inflammation. And you can use it internally and externally. So using it internally, you can finely grate it, pour boiling water on it, let it sit for 10 minutes, strain it and drink it. That's probably one of my favourite herb teas. And that hot ginger tea can be used to ease a sore throat. It can be used to settle an upset stomach. It can be used to boost your hydrochloric acid. Take a quarter of a cup hot just before the meal. Some ladies who get a little bit of nausea in pregnancy find that the ginger tea can help to relieve that. When I was at a seminar once, we all had a break, went out they had a herb tea station where people were making herb teas, and there was a lady there with a grater that looked like this, but it was really tiny. And she was grating ginger, and she had a little teapot there. I went, ginger tea? She said, I'm an entertainer, I'm a singer, I was in Greece, I lost my voice. A little Greek woman made me a hot ginger tea. She said, I sang that night. So she said, I travel everywhere with my little tiny grater. Now, I'm not going to grate on these two because they're the type of grater that just everything gets stuck. So I'm going to do it on the bigger grater, but usually I do it on a finer grater. But any will work. So what I'm making now is a ginger poultice. And ginger, as a poultice, is used for joint inflammation. So a good way to remember it is ginger is for joints. In a minute we're going to have a look at what you can use for tissue inflammation, but specifically ginger is for joints. So this could be arthritis, gout. We had one lady attend our program, and she had a finger that was swollen. So it was almost twice the size, this joint, and she said, that's been hurting me for 18 months. And she couldn't bend her finger properly. So we made a tiny little ginger poultice, much tinier than this, about a quarter of the size. And we put it on her finger. We cover it with a little bit of plastic. Remember, plastic insulates it and prevents chilling and protects your clothing, and then taped it on. And we always ask God to bless the poultice. The next morning, the joint had gone right down and she could move her finger. 18 months she'd had that pain there. She just couldn't stop smiling. She said, I can't believe it. Now, I'm just going to hold this up for you to see. What I've done is I've put the plastic down and I've laid the cloth down and then I've grated straight onto the cloth. So can you see what I've done here? And now I'm making the poultice. So I'm making like a package. So bring over the east and the west, and then bring up the south and put over the north. So what I'm doing is making a little package. And you can see the moisture already coming out. And it's the moisture that's going to do the work. And if it gets too wet, I've got all these layers at the back that will take up the excess. But notice that I've got about 1/2 inch of plastic all around the edge. And remember what the plastic does? It insulates it, stops the air getting to it and chilling it. It protects the clothing too. So let's say that I had a sore wrist here. This is a great size for the wrist. And so it's only just, so not a lot of plastic is touching the skin. And then I bandage that on. And then I ask God to, thank you. And then I just say a short prayer. I just say, Father in heaven, thank you for the natural remedies. Thank you for the ginger. Thank you for the healing powers of the body. Please bless this poultice in Jesus' name. Amen. And just a quick short one, because I know that God made the body to heal. He made the ginger and he blesses that natural way. And we've even seen people that have come to our retreat who are they're here because their daughter wanted them to come or the wife made them come or whatever. We've actually seen them turn around after they've had a poultice on that brought relief. Just a word of warning. If you put that on an inflamed joint, maybe it's a sore lower back, maybe it's a hip, maybe it's knees, toes, fingers, ankles. If there's inflammation in there, within half an hour the skin will get very hot. And it appears that the ginger pulls the inflammation out of the joint to the skin. Because one lady said, Barbara, it's burning me. And if they feel like it's just too hot, take it off. It's already done quite a bit. So we usually put it on. If we're going to put it on overnight, we'll put it on at 6 o'clock. So at 8 o'clock at night we say, how does it feel? If the person says, it's burning me, we'll just take it off. And if sometimes the person will say, it feels lovely. So can you see what you're doing? Listening and observing. It's not, I have to endure. No, because some people have very sensitive skin. So if it's just too uncomfortable, take it off. Because what you do is you just do it a little bit every day, even half an hour every day. So you're just listening. One lady had a sore knee that wouldn't bend properly, so she heard about the ginger poultice. Because I have a lecture online on poultices where I demo this. And she said she had it on for a few hours. She couldn't believe the relief that it brought her. It reduced her pain by about 80% and she could bend her knee. She was so excited, she did another poultice in the afternoon. And then she had a shower and went to bed and made another one. And when she woke up in the morning, the tissue in her knee was swollen, red and blistered. She said, what have I done? I said, overdone it. Just pulled too much inflammation out all at once. So I said to her, You won't be able to do a ginger poultice for a while now, but I'm sure your joint's feeling good. She said it is. What we're going to look at in a minute is potato. Potato is very good on tissue inflammation. So now that the tissue's inflamed, the grated potato would calm that down. So I just...
How many times can you use that same one?
How many times can you use it? You can only use it once because it's fresh vegetable material and you discard it as soon as you've used it. Now the beauty of this is now you just throw that in the bin. Whereas imagine trying to put grated ginger in any other way. You got bits of ginger everywhere, but this just contains it beautifully, and it's the juice that penetrates through and is doing the work. So that's the beauty of the poultice. Now, if you don't have any old sheets or old tea towels or pillowcases, what I have done when I'm travelling and I'm going to be doing some demos, I go to the second-hand shop and get some old pillowcases and cut them up. Ideally, you want natural fibre. No nylon, acrylic or polyester. So that's where you can use the ginger, is for joint. So what if you got a sore knee? Well, try the ginger, see what it does. Try the potato, see what that does. So you're observing, trying different things. Now, if you're visiting a little old lady who's got a swollen, knee or wrist, and she's about to go out, but she'd like to try it tonight, you can make that for her and just fold it over and even put in a snap lock bag or even put it in the fridge. Now, obviously, you would not keep that if you'd made it for more than 24 hours because it is a vegetable matter. So you can make it early, fold it up like that. Keep it. But we'll look now at the potato. And when I make it, I always make it straight onto the cloth. I mean, you could grate it into a bowl and then you put that into here, but then you've got to wash the bowl, so I'm all about saving dishes. So, and that's about your size. And we're going to do potato. Potato is very gentle. You would never put a ginger poultice on the eye, but I think common sense tells you that. But the potato is very cooling and very soothing to tissue inflammation. So it's very good for, I think they call it pink eye, red eye, conjunctivitis. And sometimes when men are welding, they'll get that red eye. The potato is very soothing. Oops. When I was in Marylands last year, they got me a grater for the demonstration, and it was a metal that was very dark grey. And I'd never seen a grater like it. And it was round, and it had about 4 different sizes of grater. And see how this is just belt down. This was so strong. I could put all my weight on it and wouldn't move. And I said, where did you get this grater? And they said, oh, no, they're all just a grater. And I said, no, this grater is different. And I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a grater from about the 1940s.
Yeah.
And it was. Because the Airbnb that I stayed in, an old lady had lived in the house and she died and she had no living relatives. So when they bought the house, all the stuff was in there. And so that was the grater. And I was so excited about the grater, they said, have it. I said, okay. So I've got it at home. And I just thought of that when I pressed this and the whole thing collapsed just about. But this grater, I wouldn't be surprised if I could stand on it and it wouldn't budge. Because if you want a really good spade or shovel, you go to garage sales from the 90-year-old man and get his shovel from, the 1930s. The metal was so strong. So looking at this poultice, you can see what I've done here. Now I'm going to do the north, south, east, west, pull it over. and make a little package and then turn that over so the part you're looking at is where there's only one layer. And again, all those layers at the back, if it gets too wet, they'll take up the extra liquid. And again, you've got about half an inch all around the edge to insulate and prevent chilling and protect clothing. And then that can be put on, that's a nice size for the eye. You could even just put it on for half an hour on the eye if it's red and inflamed, or you could wrap it round your eyes and put it on overnight. Again, for inflamed eye, sore eye, conjunctivitis. You can also use this for a sprained ankle. Again, tissue swelling. Ingrown toenail, very good for ingrown toenail because that's tissue's very swollen. And what it can do is get that swelling right down. So it was about 8 years ago now, I was riding on my bicycle on our old wooden bridge and I was not watching where my wheel was going and it got into a rut and the bike went over and I smashed my head again. That's why I've got a dent in my cheek now. But what hurt the most, I did get a couple of broken ribs out of it, but what hurt the most was my finger. This big splinter had gone down the bottom of my nail. Oh, I was so sore. And my son said, "It's all right, Mum, I'll get it out." I said, "No, just leave it," because that's very tender there. You can see why they used it as a form of torture, putting splinters down the nail. Oh. So what I did was I just made a grated potato poultice and I wrapped it on overnight, obviously about a quarter that size. And I had no pain all night. And when I woke up in the morning, there was no swelling at all. Now this bridge, it was built in the early 80s. It's timber, so you can imagine how old all that wood is. And the next day it didn't hurt at all, and by the evening it's starting to get a bit sore, so I put a grated potato poultice on it again. I did that 3 nights, and so the 4th morning I looked at it and it was all soft, it was clean as a whistle, no inflammation at all. And I got a needle and flipped the top skin back, pushed it, and it just popped straight out. But can you imagine if I hadn't done the grated potato poultice, what would have done? That would have got red, infected. And how many people don't know what to do and just endure the pain, rush to the hospital? What are they going to do? Antibiotic. Whereas so easy just to put a grated potato poultice on it. So I'll tell you about a situation that happened with when I lived in the rainforest. There's this guy living in a caravan. He's a real hippie. He had dreadlocks and, barefoot through the rainforest. And one day he was sickling. A sickle is like that. The grass, barefoot. What's going to happen next? Yeah, it went through his ankle, the back of his ankle, the sickle. I heard about it and I didn't hear any more, and then 3 days later one of the guys said, "Have you seen Chris?" I said, "No, I haven't seen him for a few days." They said, "His foot's up like a red balloon and there's a red line coming up his leg. The red line's up past his knee now, and he's lying in bed smoking marijuana waiting for nature to heal." Do you know, nature will heal if you give it the right condition. Remember the first quote I gave, that then nature is to be assisted. What this does, it just assists. It works with the healing powers of the body. So I said, bring him up. Anyway, the problem with the marijuana, his body was knocking at him and the marijuana was silencing the voice. And I don't know how long he would have lived down there. But what had happened is the wound was deep, but it had sealed on the outside. And tetanus can only get a hold on the body if it's a deep wound that has healed on the outside, but it hasn't healed on the inside. And there's an element of horse organism. because horses carry tetanus. So this was ripe for tetanus. So I said, bring him up. And one of the first things we did was I got 2 buckets of water. One was hot water and the other one was cold, and ideally you put ice cubes in it, because the hotter the hot, the colder the cold, the better the reaction. So let me explain why I did this. So the Bible says in Leviticus 17:11 that the life of the flesh is in the blood. So why is the blood the life? The blood's the life because it contains red blood cells, and the red blood cells carry the oxygen, red blood cells carry the nutrients, red blood cells carry the water. But what red blood cells also do, they carry away waste. So when you think about it, doesn't blood contain everything we need for healing? It contains something else. It contains our immune system, the white blood cells. And water is the best conductor of hot and cold. And so with the hot water, how hot do you make it? You know what, it depends on the person. You get them to put their good hand in. How does that feel? And I put my hand in, but I can handle it hotter. No, you've got to go with the person. And it doesn't matter if they can't handle it very hot, because after they've had the cold, they can handle it hot. And I think we all can testify, if you're a little bit cool and you have a hot shower, tingles, yeah? You get into a hot bath and you're a little cool, tingling, it's a stimulation. And what that hot water is stimulating is blood. So it's stimulating blood to the area. Because you have a hot bath or a hot shower and look in the mirror, what colour are you? Red. It's stimulated blood. But if you get into that hot bath, after about, it's usually 3 minutes, so then there's a slowing down. And it takes 3 minutes for hot water to get from stimulation to slowing down. Whereas cold, and it must be water, not cold air, must be water. Cold water, when you turn the hot tap off and just have cold, sometimes you scream, is that right? It stimulates. So cold also stimulates. And the reason why we scream is because we're warm-blooded creatures, so we don't like cold. So when the cold water touches your body, there's a reaction. Because if you were to dive into a cold, freezing cold pool and stay there all night, you might not be alive by morning. Isn't that true? And because the body knows that, there's a reaction. So the blood moves. So again, you're stimulating blood. The difference between the hot and cold in the hydrotherapy is the time it takes to get from stimulation to slowing down. So the cold water takes 30 seconds to get from stimulation to slowing down. The hot water takes 3 minutes to get from stimulation to slowing down. So we have 2 buckets. I put his foot in hot water, and before it's got a chance to slow down, because remember what I'm stimulating? Blood. And when I stimulate blood to that area, I'm getting more oxygen, more nutrients, more water, more waste is going away, more white blood cells, everything we need. So before it's got time to slow down, I put it into the cold. And then I start stimulation again. What am I stimulating? Blood. And while it's in the cold, I put a bit of boiling water into the hot. And I get him to put his hand in. Are you happy with that? Yes, yes, yes. And then he puts, after 30 seconds, before it's got time to slow down, I put it back in the hot. And I do that 3 times. What's the maths on that? At a stretch, 15 minutes at the very most. Doesn't take long. So let me tell you about what happened with Chris. You can tell, body language can tell you if someone's in pain. And by the third one, I saw his whole body relax. And I saw him smile. I'd like to suggest, from my observations, that he had 60% pain relief. How long does a painkiller take to get an effect? Half an hour? It's quicker than a painkiller. And then I made the biggest grated potato poultice I've ever made to go over his whole foot. No need to do anything to the line because the line is just what's happening in the foot. When I'd finished that, so probably 20 minutes all in all, by the time we'd done the hot and colds, put the grated potato and asked God to put his blessing on that, he was able to walk. A bit of a limp, but remember they had to carry him in. Hydrotherapy, which is what we just looked at, water therapy, has been used for centuries, and in the area of pain relief there's no equal for pain relief. Most pain is due to inflammation, and can you see that the movement of blood gets the old stagnant blood waste away and the fresh ones in. He came back 2 hours later and the red line was going down. If he'd got no relief from the hot and colds, we would have just put him into hospital, take him straight to hospital. But he got relief. Incredible relief. So what's the body saying? Yeah. When he came back, after 2 hours, I took the poultice off. The wound was oozing. That's what you want. Remember what you want? You want it to heal from the inside out. The wound was oozing. The swelling on the foot had gone down by easily 3/4. We did the whole process again. He came, I think I first saw him about 11 o'clock. He came back about 2, then he came back about 6. And then we did one overnight. And when he came up in the morning, the red line had gone down by about 3/4. The foot was no longer swollen. And he was walking quite well. Quite incredible. I just left it with him then. But I said that wound must ooze until it's healed from the inside out. Such a simple treatment. And yet what a powerful effect. And when I was in New Zealand a few years ago, a lady came to see me and she had a 7-year-old boy and his finger was twice the size. So my eyes went straight to the finger. It was red and it was like a volcano here and it like had a white top, which you knew was pus, but it was sealed. I said, what happened to the finger? They said it's cellulitis. I said, yeah, we can tell that. You know what cellulitis is? Inflammation of the cell. But I said, what happened? Because nothing happens for no reason. Yes, I can tell it's cellulitis. That's not the cause, that's just the result. She said, well, he had a blister, the blister burst, he's out in the dirt playing with his little cars. What's going to happen now? Dirt gets in, then the body has this massive reaction to try and prevent that dirt, that bacteria going to the rest of the body. So it swells it, white blood cells come, that's what pus is, dead white blood cells. So the body's doing a major thing. But it was very painful because it was so big and swollen. I said, what have you been doing? She said he's on his 2nd course of antibiotics and he's having painkillers to sleep and sleeping tablets. And he's 7. I'm not criticising the lady, she didn't know what else to do. I said, can I try something? She said, please. So I did 2 mugs, did this, hot and cold. You know, by the time he'd done his second hot and was going into his second cold, I saw him smile. What does the smile say? Relief. He's got relief. In fact, I would like to suggest 60% his pain had, just my observations of his, and then I put the grated potato on. And I actually don't have to tell them what to do now, do I? They know exactly what to do. So the mother said when they got home, a couple of hours later, the little boy said, can we do that again? Why did he say that? Because he got relief. How long does Tylenol take? Half an hour. You're getting results in 15 minutes. And then she said they did it again just before bed, and in the morning the whole finger was back to normal. When they took the poultice off, everything came out. That little boy also, I'm sure he's probably a teenager now, he knows exactly what to do. See, this is the best school. The best school to learn is to do it and just see the results. It's a very powerful treatment. No need for sleeping tablets now. In fact, he had the best night's sleep he'd had for 10 days. No need for painkillers now. No. I never gave any of my children a painkiller, yet we had all sorts of things happen, but we just did natural treatments. And the natural treatments bring relief. I'm very thankful for painkillers when I broke my arm. But you know, once it was set, I didn't need painkillers anymore because it was set. It was painful because it was out of place. The body actually said, you need help here. So every situation might call for slightly different measures, but you try and you observe and see what the body says. So we've treated quite a few cases of treading on rusty nails just with this. Grated potato and that. I've helped several of my grandchildren who are little boys, usually little boys, who are at the job site treading on rusty nails. How do you know how long to do it? Your body will tell you. One little grandson, he just had to have it for 3 nights. After that, there was no more redness or soreness. If redness or soreness comes, what do? You just do it again. Because dying from tetanus is very rare, and the tetanus vaccine is quite toxic, and yet all you really need to do is the grated potato.